I'm 28 years old, and I've spent my entire life being the other child. You know how some families have a golden child? The one who can do no wrong. The one who gets praised for breathing. The one whose mistakes are just phases, and whose failures are someone else's fault. Yeah, that's my older brother, Daniel. Daniel is 31. Growing up, he was the pride of the family. My mom called him her first blessing. His baby pictures covered every wall in the house. When relatives visited, she would drag them into the living room and show them albums like he'd won a Nobel Prize for learning how to crawl. When I was born 3 years later, I got a frame on the hallway wall. I'm not exaggerating. From as early as I can remember, Daniel was the star. If he scored average on a test, Mom said the teacher must not like him. If I scored the highest in my class, she'd say, "That's good, but your brother was always naturally brilliant." Naturally brilliant. That phrase followed me my entire childhood. In primary school, Daniel got into fights constantly. Teachers would call home. My mom would storm into school, ready to defend him, before even hearing the story. "They're jealous of him," she'd say. "He's a leader." Strong personalities intimidate people. Meanwhile, I got in trouble once for forgetting homework, and she didn't speak to me for 2 days. In secondary school, things got worse. Daniel started skipping classes. He barely passed exams. But every report card season, my mom would cook his favorite meal and say, "University will change him. He just needs the right environment." I was the one getting scholarships. I was the one staying up late studying. I was the one helping him finish assignments, so he wouldn't repeat a year. But guess who got celebrated? Daniel. When I got into university with partial funding, my mom's response was, "Imagine how much better you'd do if you had your brother's confidence." When Daniel failed his first year and had to repeat, she said, "The lecturers are targeting him." At some point, I stopped trying to compete. I became the quiet, responsible one. The mature one. The understanding one. Which really meant I was the one expected to sacrifice. Fast forward to adulthood. I now work a stable job. I pay my rent. I pay my bills. I even help my mom occasionally when she's short on money. Daniel. He has jumped from job to job for years. Every time something goes wrong, it's always someone else's fault. His boss was toxic. His coworkers were jealous. The company was corrupt. The system was rigged. And my mom believes every word. 3 months ago, Daniel moved back in with her temporarily. That was the word. Temporarily. He had quit another job. Said it was beneath him. Said he deserved better. He's been there ever since. Not paying rent. Not contributing to groceries. Not helping with bills. But guess who my mom called when the electricity bill doubled? May. She said, "Your brother's going through a hard time. You know how sensitive he is. You're stronger. I raised you to be strong. I paid it." I told myself it wasn't worth fighting over. Then last month, things escalated. My mom invited me over for dinner. I thought it was just a regular Sunday meal. But when I got there, Daniel was sitting at the table with this dramatic expression on his face, like he was about to announce a royal decree. Mom cleared her throat and said, "Your brother has a business idea." Of course he does. Apparently, Daniel wanted to start a consulting company. No experience. No clients. No savings. Just vibes and ambition. And guess who he expected to invest? May. Mom looked at me with those hopeful eyes and said, "You've always been good with money. If you help him get started, this could change his life." I asked him what his plan was. He got defensive immediately. Said I was doubting him. Said I've always been jealous of him. Jealous? I almost laughed. I asked simple questions. What services? What market? What strategy? What timeline? What budget breakdown? He had none. Mom jumped in and said, "You always do this. You make him feel small." That hit something in me. Because I've spent 28 years shrinking myself so he could feel big. I calmly said, "I'm not investing in something with no plan." Silence. Daniel pushed his chair back dramatically and said, "See. This is what I mean. She thinks she's better than me." Mom looked disappointed. Not at him. At me. Later that night, she called me privately. She said, "Why can't you just support your brother? You know he struggles. You've always been more capable." More capable. Translation, more responsible. More dependable. More financially useful. I told her I'd think about it, just to end the call. But the breaking point came last week. I got another call from her. Crying. The landlord had given her a warning about late rent. Daniel had promised to handle something and didn't. Again. She asked if I could lend her money. I drove over after work. When I walked in, Daniel was on the couch playing video games. Laughing. Completely unbothered. I asked him, "Did you know Mom is behind on rent?" He shrugged and said, "She worries too much. It'll sort itself out." Something in me snapped. Years of biting my tongue. Years of watching her defend him. Years of being the backup plan. I looked at my mom and said, calmly but clearly, "It won't sort itself out. It never does. You keep rescuing him, and he keeps failing upward because you never let him face consequences." The room went silent. Daniel stood up and started shouting immediately. Said I was attacking him. Said I think I'm perfect. Said I've always looked down on him. But I wasn't even looking at him. I was looking at my mom. And for the first time in my life, I told her the truth. I said, "You made him this way." Her face changed instantly. I continued, "Every time he messed up, you blamed someone else. Every time he failed, you shielded him. You taught him he never has to take responsibility because someone will always clean up his mess." She started crying harder. Daniel called me heartless. But I wasn't yelling. I wasn't insulting. I was just done pretending. I told her, "I love you. But I'm not funding this anymore. Not the business. Not the bills. Not the emergencies that aren't emergencies." Daniel stormed out of the house. My mom whispered, "How could you say that about your own brother?" And that's when the doubt started creeping in. Because as much as I meant every word, seeing her cry made me feel like maybe I went too far. Maybe I should have softened it. Maybe I should have stayed quiet. Maybe being honest wasn't worth breaking her heart. Now my relatives are texting me. Apparently, Daniel told everyone I humiliated him and called him a failure. I didn't. I said he's never been forced to grow up. But in my family, those two things mean the same thing. So now I'm sitting here wondering, was I wrong for finally saying what everyone else tiptoes around? Was I cruel? Or was I just the only one willing to tell the truth? After I left that night, I didn't feel powerful. I didn't feel relieved. I felt hollow. Like I had finally said something that had been building in my chest for years, and instead of freedom, I just felt exposed. By the time I got home, my phone was already buzzing. My aunt called first. She didn't even greet me. She just said, "Why would you attack your brother like that?" Attack. That word again. I told her I didn't attack anyone. I said he needed to take responsibility. She sighed and said, "You've always been strong. Not everyone is built like you." There it was. The same excuse dressed up as empathy. Daniel isn't irresponsible, he's sensitive. He isn't lazy, he's misunderstood. Somehow, I'm the villain because I don't cushion him. Then my cousin texted me saying, I embarrassed him in front of our mother. Embarrassed him. He was the one who stormed out. I didn't shout. I didn't insult him. I didn't even list half the things I could have said. But the story had already changed by the time it reached everyone else. The next morning, my mom didn't call. That was unusual. She calls almost every day. Instead, Daniel posted on his WhatsApp status, "Some people only support you when it benefits them." Subtle. I muted him. For once, I didn't rush to fix anything. I went to work and tried to focus, but it's hard to concentrate when you know your family sees you as the cold one. 2 days later, my mom finally called. Her voice was soft. She said, Daniel hasn't been eating properly. He's 31. But she said it like he was 5 and refusing dinner. I asked if he was applying for jobs. There was a pause. Then she said he needed time to process what I said. Process it. I told her I wasn't apologizing for being honest. She said she wasn't asking me to apologize, but I didn't have to humiliate him. That word again. So I asked her what exactly I said that wasn't true. She couldn't answer. Instead, she said I don't understand the pressure he feels as the eldest son. Pressure. Growing up, he never had pressure. He had protection. I was the one who felt pressure, to stay quiet, to not outshine him, to be the dependable one. But I didn't say that. I just asked, and what about the pressure I felt? She went silent. That silence told me more than any argument could. That weekend, I went over again. Not to apologize. Not to fight. Just to see where things stood. The house felt tense when I walked in. Daniel barely looked at me. My mom tried to act normal, offering me food immediately. Classic distraction. Then I noticed printed papers on the table. Business plans. Actual ones. Rough, incomplete, but written. I picked them up. Daniel grabbed them back and said, You don't have to pretend you care. I told him calmly, I never said I didn't care. I said I wouldn't fund something with no plan. He looked thrown off for a second, like that distinction hadn't occurred to him. Mom quickly said he'd been working on it since that night. Since that night. So maybe what I said didn't just wound him. Maybe it pushed him. We sat there in uncomfortable silence until Daniel finally said, You've always thought I was useless. That didn't sound angry. It sounded hurt. And for a second, I saw something I hadn't really considered before. Being the golden child isn't always a reward. When you grow up being told you're exceptional, you start believing you're supposed to succeed effortlessly. So when you don't, it feels like failure on a massive scale. I told him I don't think he's useless. I think he's never been allowed to fail properly. He frowned. I explained that failing isn't the issue. Avoiding responsibility is. For once, he didn't interrupt. My mom was watching us carefully, like she was witnessing something fragile. Then he said quietly, You think I don't feel bad? That caught me off guard. I've always seen the entitlement, the excuses, the laziness. I never stopped to think about whether shame was sitting underneath it all. He looked down and said every time he messes up, Mom defends him, and then everyone expects him to prove he deserves that defense. But he doesn't even know how to fix things anymore. That shifted something in me. Not enough to excuse years of imbalance, but enough to make the situation more complicated. For the first time, I saw a crack in the image. And for the first time, my mom looked unsure, like maybe she was realizing protection can turn into a cage. Still, understanding him doesn't mean I should finance him. It doesn't mean I should keep being the safety net. And it doesn't erase the years of being overlooked. When I left that day, nothing was solved. But it wasn't explosive either. It felt like something had cracked open. Later that night, my mom texted me, "Daniel has an interview tomorrow. No request for money. No guilt. Just information." And that small shift hit me harder than I expected. Maybe the truth didn't destroy everything. Maybe it just broke the illusion. I don't regret what I said. I regret how long it took me to say it. But now I'm wondering if honesty is enough to fix something that's been uneven for decades, or if this is just the calm before everything finally blows up.